Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Transport Fever 2. In this tutorial I'm going to be looking into production, shipment and transport. The production chains, how do they work, what's my understanding of them, and keep in mind I am not a developer nor affiliated in any way, so I might get something wrong. Now, something that you need to know about Transport Fever 2 is that you need to always look at the towns. The towns are the end consumers of your products. If you don't have a town that's demanding a product or service, then don't even bother producing it. Here's what I mean. This is the town of Breda, a Dutch town. It requires a supply of construction materials and it requires a supply of food. Now, the term supply can be a little bit confusing. You could also call this demand. This is what the town wants. It wants construction materials and it wants food. Right now, I only have a line set up here between the farm and the production food processing plant. This one is making food. But there is a bit of a hitch. The food processing plant is not connected to the town. This one has no final demand for its actual product. So as you can see, it does have a little bit of grain that it's consuming. It has a consumption of 8. That was the first haul from this new line that I have set up. But it doesn't know what to do with the food. And this means that the food is just going to go to waste. Now, that means that this line is really not going to make that much profits. Here's why. This truck is going to continue to ship grain to the food processing plant from the farm. That's all fine, but at some point, the food processing plant is going to say, hey, look, I don't know what to do with all this grain. I might be making stuff. I might be storing grain, but then what? Because I have nobody who needs my food. That is where this comes in. Consumers. This is the third tab from the food processing plant's information tab. And over here you can see which towns actually want the food. And currently that is the town of Breda over here. The town of Almelo, which is another Dutch town. And the town of Vlaardingen, which is really quite far away. What I want to do now is make sure that this town is going to be getting a supply of food. And then a few things are going to happen. This thing is going to actually start production. Because right now, it does say that it is producing stuff, but I'm not seeing it anywhere. I don't know where it's storing it. I don't know where it's keeping it. Maybe this is some of the stuff that they have actually produced so far. I don't know. But right now, it's just going to waste. So what I'm going to do is add one more line. And before I do that, I need to find out where in Breda they need the food. So set up the system and look at the shipment for the cargo layer. This is the one that you want to see. Because now I get a very clear picture of where the food is needed. That's in the left side of the town. The right side needs the construction materials. So I do this. I build a truck stop. This is a truck unload stop. Keep in mind, this is something that you use in towns. You could also use it over here if you really wanted to. But it's not a position where trucks can pick up cargo. So if I were to have one standard truck stop over here picking up fuel, and a truck drop-off point over here, and another truck drop-off point to pick up cargo, then nothing would happen because I cannot load anything there. That's what you need these truck stops for. When you're actually sending stuff into a town, you don't really want to have a truck stop in the town. Simply a truck offload stop is enough. New line. This one is going to come in from the food processing plant and link up to Breda over there. I'm going to add one vehicle to that. Let's go with the standard 40-ton tarpaulin truck and set that up on line 2. Now watch what's going to happen. This thing is going to take a little bit of time to realize that there is now in fact a demand for food. It can actually supply something. It currently doesn't quite have a consumer because the line is still being sort of incorporated into the game. The game still has to figure out, aha, there's something new. So I'm going to speed this up a little. And when the truck actually gets to the station, there we go. It's almost there. Road vehicle 2. And you can see that right now there is a little bit of shipping going on. This truck is currently not fulfilling anything. It's not transporting anything. But that's because the food processing plant first has to get up to production. It first has to start working. And now you can see it's actually producing stuff. Shipment means that I'm shipping very, very little at the moment. And I'm actually transporting less. I'm not transporting anything from this plant because the truck just went past. Now, especially early on in a line, you can click on a vehicle and tell it to turn around. Reverse. Now it's going to go back to this food processing plant and pick up some food, provided that there is any. Food processing plant might not have enough grain though. So we're going to have to wait for this truck to come in. And this truck is supplying a new batch of grain, which is going to get turned into food, and from food into the town. Always start with the end in mind. What does your town want? Does your town not want anything? Does your town not want food? Then don't try shipping food. It does not work. If a factory has no end consumer, it simply will not do anything. And this is something that is a little different from other transport games. It's like something always has a bit of demand. This food processing plant always has a little bit of demand. But in Transport Fever 2, that is not so. Similar in Transport Fever 1. Now you can see that right now the truck stop does have some food waiting for it, but it's only 5. How come? Because I was shipping a hell of a lot more. These trucks carry 25. Why am I only shipping 5? Well, a few reasons. The truck is just starting out on its route. And on top of that, this has a 2-to-1 ratio. I need 2 grain and I get 1 food out of that. So ideally I would be shipping double the amount of grain, so possibly 2 cars, 2 road vehicles here, to actually get 1 bit of food. The same thing works for construction materials. This is another one that works on a pretty simple production chain. You take one resource, you turn it into another resource. Let me see if I can find one. Yes, right here. This is a construction materials plant. It requires stone, but it requires only 1 stone. So it's actually even easier than food. I can ship stone from the quarry over here to the construction plant. If I do this and I don't actually ship it anywhere, then it's just going to get stuck here. Nothing is going to happen. So what you need to do is make sure that you ship that final product, those construction materials, to an actual town that wants it. Right now, as I'm looking at it, I wouldn't set up this route. Because this town doesn't want it, this town doesn't want it, and this town does, but it's quite far away. And maybe there's another opportunity closer. Now, what's also happening, because we are working with this farm, is that the farm is trying to ship as much as possible. But I'm not transporting all of it. The production for the base resources can only go as high as this bar goes. And the shipment, I mean, it's trying to put out as much as possible, but I'm not transporting everything. And that results in cargo being heaped up over here. There is a lot of grain, and the game is saying, uh-oh, some cargo items are lost because the station is overloaded. So what I can do is add another vehicle to line 1, which is the line that transports grain to the food processing plant over here. You can just buy a new vehicle if you want to. Just buy another 40-ton tarpaulin truck. Or if you're happy with the vehicles that you have, you go into the line, you manage the vehicles, and you then click this one, clone all vehicles. Are you sure? Mass clone all vehicles? Yes, I want to add another one. Another vehicle of the same type spawns, adds to the same line, and right now we should be shipping a little more, because we just added a second truck. This could also be a problem, the 67%. It could be bottlenecked by something else, and this is going to vary from game to game, or from map to map, because I might be shipping this much to the food processing plant. And there you go, the transport is now going up. But we could run into a bottleneck here. Because what happens if the food processing plant cannot get rid of all of its finished product, all of that food, it'll slow down. It'll stop, well, it'll not entirely stop production, but it will reduce production. And then you can see that over here, the shipment might go down, and currently I'm really not transporting anything. Why is that? Well, I am transporting some stuff, but the transports are taking so long to get from here to the town that the game is almost saying, yeah, don't bother. I don't really consider this a whole lot of transport. It's just 16%. Now, what else can happen if you want to speed this up and if you want to remove this potential bottleneck here for transport is to make sure that there are more trucks transferring food from the food processing plant to the town. That way, this thing won't have a huge supply or a huge storage of end product of the food. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to add another vehicle using the same way. Clone the line, clone the vehicle, and there we go. There's a new vehicle joining this line. This way, there will be more food produced, most likely, provided that I still provide it with enough grain. And the trucks will take that food and bring it over to the other destination, which is over here, to the town. And now we can probably see that the transport is going to go up a little bit. Now, there is a bit of a problem here. The food processing plant has 4 levels. Currently, I'm at level 1. If you go to level 4, I think you're going to look at a production level of 800. But this farm cannot keep up. This farm can only provide 200, and that is the maximum. These things don't level up. They don't tier up, they don't increase production beyond their maximum production capability. Unlike these things. Processing plants can be improved, and the same goes for factories. So what I would need to do, if I wanted to really crank up production here and make sure they have more food, is add another farm. I could provide a transport line from the farm here to the food processing plant over there. And that way I could further ramp up production. By doing this in step-by-steps or small steps, you can see exactly how much your town needs and how much you're shipping. Right now, I'm only providing 38 out of the 110 demand. Yes, let's call it demand, not supply. Demand that the town has. There is definitely a whole bunch of food here. That is working out quite nicely. But it's taking a bit too long for my taste to get it from here to there. Now, I could optimize this line a little more if I want to. And I can do it as such. This truck stop over here is actually closer to the town than making this whole loop, because that's what my trucks are currently doing. They're starting over here, going into town, and then going all the way there, and actually not even to that truck stop, they're going all the way around. You have multiple ways of tackling this. You can tell the trucks which are delivering the grain to pick up the food here and bring it back with them. And then you can tell the food line that's going from this stop to the town to actually take the food with it. That would mean that the truck is doing this, that line, instead of this enormous circle, which means that from here to there is profitable, but from there to here is not profitable. And the shorter that non-profitable distance is, the more money you'll be making. Another thing I could do, and that is actually the easier way to do it, but it is also more expensive, is to just deploy a road. Now, right now, if you make a straight line, the game is going to really try and make it as straight as possible at a cost. It makes a tunnel. If you just take this in a couple of small segments, and keep in mind, this is going to cost me about 630,000. If I do it in a couple of segments, the road will follow the terrain a little more. Now, I'm about at 200,000, 280,000, give or take 300,000. More or less. That's half the cost that I would be paying if I were to make the tunnel. Now, the trucks immediately will recognize this new route. They will immediately take all this stuff and just make sure that it's a hell of a lot faster, instead of having to go all the way around. Something else that you need to be aware of if you're shipping from a processing plant or some other factory to a town is the roads. These are pretty old country roads. I think these are the small country roads. Yeah, these are the same ones. They have a speed of 60 kilometers per hour. If you want to make sure that your vehicles are doing the maximum speed that they can, and you can see that under the details if you click on a vehicle, it says that this vehicle can do 100 kph. So I'm only doing 60% of the speed. And that's why I invested in a road where they can do 100 kph. Money is reliant on how quickly you can get something to a specific place where it is demanded. So by doing it this way, I make sure that the trucks can make more to and froms per year. So they can pick up more stuff here and deliver more stuff over there faster. Because the road's faster, it's a more direct connection, and they can actually go that 100 kph. Alright, now this farm is at max. This food processing plant is not quite at max. If you want to make sure that the food processing plant levels up, so increases production to have a top production of 200%, or 200 points, not 200%, 200 products, you're going to have to ship more. You want to have all these 3 things in the blue. Otherwise, it's not happening. So yes, I'm shipping as much as possible. I'm producing as much as possible. I'm shipping as much as possible, but I'm not yet transporting everything. Now, I think with this more direct line, it might increase because the trucks are going to be a hell of a lot faster. You can see that this truck, number 4, actually took off from the stop over here later, but it arrived in the town sooner because the other one had to take this long and winding road, which it couldn't even get at full speed at. And here we go. With that new connection, this one, the game is now saying, aha, you're transporting everything that I can currently make. I'm going to upgrade. And that's when you can see those arrows moving to the right. Now, you give it a bit of time, and this is a progress bar. This is going to fill up. This thing is then going to double in size, and you can actually see that happen. Or actually, no, it's not exactly doubling in size. The food production will double, and I think you can see that a new part of the factory is going to be developed. In the meanwhile, as we're waiting for that, you can see that both of my lines currently are making money. The food line is currently slightly less than the grain line, and that's because the food line probably has a bit farther to go, and currently is not entirely full. I'm transporting 35 out of 50, and the other one's transporting 18 out of 50. So there is not quite enough supply from this farm to make sure I can fulfill the entire cargo hold of my trucks. This one's rolling around with 20 out of 25. It's not quite enough, but we're getting there. Now there's a decent supply of grain stored over here. Consumption is still 200. That is pretty much hardwired. And keep in mind, it is 200, but you only output 100, because you're looking at a 2-to-1 ratio. Now we're about to see that factory get its next tier production, its next upgrade. There you go. Look at that. They added a whole bunch here. More cargo. I think they also added a bit more here. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Just maybe waste products? I don't know. It's not something I ship to them, because I only ship the stuff that is the food, and the food immediately gets deposited on my truck stop. And the grain, I think you can see the grain coming in from over here, from these silos. Because if I deliver another bit of grain, you can usually see more of those things come out. Here's the truck. Yep, you can see the grain being piled up here. It's not exactly in the silos, it's in here. So the game also gives you a sort of representation of how much stuff there actually is. Now we're going to find that the production goes up, but the consumption also goes up. It's going to try and produce more. And that's where we run into trouble. This thing wants 240 grain, but I can only provide it with 200. So now is the time that I need to actually get this second farm involved. Again, I could set up the route and use the existing roads, but a more direct line is preferable, because the more direct line will make sure that I have faster vehicles, which don't take as long to get there. That's what I'm going to do, but I'm going to make sure that it's immediately tying into the truck stop. I'm going to configure this and adjust it. I want another street connection, and I want it over there. I also want another cargo area, because otherwise my trucks are going to be using the same cargo area. This thing currently has 3 terminals, because that's I built a new one, this one. And the other 2 trucks are using this one to pick it up, and that one to drop it off. Which works, But there is going to be a next one. There's going to be another grain truck, or several, coming in from the north, from that farm over there. So it's time to set up that road. Let's go for a large country road. Don't immediately draw the line. That's going to get really expensive. I'm currently looking at, what's that, 1 million? Give or take, because I'm building a direct line through a hill. Let's not. Let's make a bit of an edge here. Slight turn. And now I can pretty much go straight, because now I'm not really messing with the terrain that much. It is trying to tie it into the road though, but is struggling a little bit. So I'm going to park it here. Finish the build. And then just redo the other roads, making sure that I still have the roads connected. These can just be medium country roads, like that. Alright, truck stop. Now, the truck stop is going to be line number 3, starting here and ending here. Make sure that you check out the terminals, because the terminals sometimes get assigned to the exact same position. The truck lines can be coming in from the same position. Right now, they all managed to find their own terminal. So we got the grain drop-off, that's the dark line, coming here. The food pickup coming here. And the next grain the next grain dump is going there. Alright, buying another couple of vehicles would be handy. A couple of tarpaulins, and that's going to be line 3. Now, these factories can, if you don't care for them enough, they can decrease in production. Keep that in mind. If you don't provide them with enough stuff that they need, they will go down. If you don't have them produce enough, if they don't ship enough, and if they don't transport enough, they're going to get smaller. That happens. Right now, this farm is waking up and actually producing a whole lot, shipping a whole lot, and by shipping, it's trying to get as much of the grain deposited on my truck stop, which only accepts so much. You can, however, increase that, depending on how much room you have. The game at this point is already saying, shit, cargo items are lost because the station's overloaded. If you want to avoid that, especially if you have really large cargo stations, or a whole lot of supply being dumped, you go to cargo after the configure menu, and you just make that specific platform larger. Keep in mind, I cannot do it anymore here. Or, well, I could, but I will remove a field. That's certainly going to set me back 500,000. I don't exactly know how much cargo capacity this now has, but I know it's enough. So if my trucks take a little bit of time to make that trip to and from, then there will still be room on this cargo dock. Now the farm is saying, yep, I'm producing, I'm shipping, but you're not transporting. Why are you not transporting? Well, that's because this truck is still on the way. It hasn't completed its first trip yet. So we're going to wait for that to complete, and then you're going to see that this farm is suddenly getting, or my goods are being transported. This is fine. Then I can just make sure that there continues to be a supply on Emmen North over here. Truck's coming in. And there we go. The game has already, before the truck even got there, recognized that the transport is now being used. Here's the truck. Drops off the grain, and you might not even see it. Yeah, normally you would see it piled up over here. But it's immediately being absorbed into the factory. And there is currently 32 grain stored. Its consumption is still 264, which I will be able to service with the 2 farms. But now I might again have to increase the amount of trucks that are actually shipping to this town. Because that could be the next bottleneck. I could be producing a whole lot. But if my shipment is not going up with it, then we're going to have a whole bunch of food piled up here. And it's already happening. 31, 32, 33, 34. These things can only transport 25. 39, 40. Transport is still 100. And it looks like at this rate, the food processing plant might once again improve production. Shipment should also be going up now that I'm transporting more of the food back. But once again, there's 33, 34, 35, 36. And you can also see the destination here, which is that truck stop over there in the town. Now, this is not a loop that you can keep up indefinitely. Because at some point, you might be producing more than the town is willing to accept. At that point, you can do either of two things. You can keep it as is and not increase production. Or you can find another town that actually wants food and ship it there. In this case, I could ship it all the way over there if I wanted to. Or, what other town wants it? There were a few of them. Consumers. Yeah, that's the other side of the map. That's the other one. So I really don't have too much of a choice. I could ship it here. And once again, try to make use of the truck stops that you have. Because what I could do, if I want to make this truck extra profitable, not this truck specifically, but this line, is once they take the grain from here to the food processing plant, take a little bit of food back and drop it off here at this truck stop. Then you set up another line and make sure you set up the line before you tell this truck to pick up food. It'll do that automatically if it can. Then you ship it from here to there. And that way you don't have to set up the whole new loop again, if that's making sense. Alright, I was hoping this tutorial would be a little shorter, but I hope that I took enough time this way to explain it. You got these three values: production, shipment, transport. Production is how much it's going to actually be producing. Shipment is how much it's trying to deposit onto your truck stop, for example. Could be an airport, could be a cargo station, for trains could be a cargo dock. How much you're transporting is actually how much are you bringing away from your terminals, from your cargo, well, deposits, whatever they are, to the actual end user. And I'm going to once again stress this, the end user is always the determining factor. If I were to look at Breda over here, I could not ship fuel to it. Well, I could, but it wouldn't do anything. As long as this town doesn't want fuel, you don't need to ship it. Don't do it. It's not going to make you any money. It's going to cost you money setting up the line. And you're going to go very frustrated because it's not actually making you any money. Alright, that should conclude this tutorial on shipping, production, and how to upgrade factories. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. I'm here to help. If you have a request for a specific tutorial, then let me know down below in the comments as well. And I also have further tutorials on the game. You can find those linked in the description down below. There's a playlist there, and you can find the other tutorials that I have made so far. Alright, good luck setting up your lines in Transport Fever 2. Have fun, and I shall catch you guys soon on another video.